You're listening to ThunderQuack Podcast Network.
My name is David Brady, and Kingdom Hearts is my perfect 10.
Hello and welcome back to Perfect 10. I am your host, Michael Cohen. I almost forgot that I had to record this intro. If not for the fact that there is no intro on the episode that I recorded, I would have forgotten because this is new. This is new to the format. So here we are. It's actually it's Halloween night. As I record this, we just did all of our trick-or-treating. We watched some Ghostbusters. We didn't make it all the way through. The girls had to go to bed. But we did watch some of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which remains a fantastic film. No change there. Still awesome. And it was a good night. It was a pretty... You actually might even hear a little bit of the firecrackers going off in the background. Somewhat unavoidable. I don't think you guys will be able to hear it, but it is happening in our neighborhood. This episode is fantastic. David came on to talk about Kingdom Hearts, which is a video game franchise that is near and dear to my heart, but even more so for him. And when we get deep into it, it is with the other episodes that we've done so far, we haven't necessarily followed what I would consider a format, but I have like that bit of a rough outline, right, for every episode. With this one, it went out the window because there is just no way to logically attack a conversation about Kingdom Hearts. You kind of just have to let it go where it takes you. So I don't know. I hope that this is fun for people who aren't big fans of Kingdom Hearts or might be new to the franchise. Maybe this is the first time you've ever heard anybody talk about it. I hope that it's still enjoyable, even though it's maybe a tad inaccessible by virtue of the topic itself. But I'll tell you that David and I had a fantastic time talking about Kingdom Hearts. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. Before we get too deep into that, though, I will just remind everybody up front here. If you haven't already gone over to patreon.com/ThunderQuack to kick in with your support, I mean, like, I would love it if you did. I understand if you can't. It's not for everybody. And some folks just want to support with their downloads and such. But and that's fine. That's totally fine. But the goal that we have right now is if we can get that up to 250 American every month. If that can kind of be the running tally on that one, then I will go from one episode of Perfect 10 every 4 weeks to an episode every other week. And Perfect 10 will become sort of my main focus. A couple of you have actually already taken us up on this and moved the needle quite significantly. So just honestly, a few more people at like the $5 or $10 level, and we'd be there. But also those $1 subscriptions, they matter as well. So and that $1 gets you the podcast early. $5 gets you the exclusive podcast with me off the record, which happens on those off weeks in between new episodes of Perfect 10 and Forced Perspectives. And then the $10 level gets you access to the Perfect 10 pop quiz, which is fantastic. I mean, they're very brief episodes, but Tim is putting a lot of work into those. Tim Dipple, just fantastic stuff, man. So good. And they're just a fun little companion every week to the podcast itself, right? So whatever the topic is this week, then that's so Kingdom Hearts, right? So Tim puts together 10 questions, basically like pub trivia, but specifically on the subject of whatever the podcast that week was. And it's just an awesome companion. It's an awesome companion to Perfect 10. And it just kind of keeps the conversation going for that little bit extra. And that's at the $10 level. Now, of course, you're also getting the podcast early. You're also getting off the record. So it's like the additional $5 also gets you that, if that makes sense. But I understand, again, if you can't kick in, it's no problem. Just continue to enjoy the podcast for free. No worries there. But I will ask you to do one thing, if you could. If you just take a minute, just take a second, especially for Perfect 10, because I know a lot of you are probably still listening on the ThunderQuack feed. If you could do just two very brief things for me, switch over and subscribe to the Perfect 10 podcast feed. Even if you just download them and then delete them immediately, or if you here's the thing, I want to phase the ThunderQuack podcast feed out, I think. I don't know, it's so tough because it's like, do we get rid of that? And then but if I saw enough numbers on the on the Perfect 10 feed, if I could speak, then I wouldn't have to double post it the way that I am right now, which would be great if we could just get it going sort of on one thing all on its own. And then it's not mixed in with the download, like the download numbers aren't kind of mixed in. I mean, they're not really, but it just makes things cleaner for me. So if you do that, go and subscribe there. That also goes a long way in increasing the discoverability of the podcast for new listeners. So because the algorithms and whatnot, they're paying attention to new subscribers. So go over there, subscribe to the Perfect 10 feed, which is, it's just Perfect 10 on that one, and leave a rating and a review, preferably a 5-star review. But I mean, be honest. If you could do those two things for me, I would be greatly appreciative and in your debt, your collective debt, which just means that I'll continue making the podcast. That's when I say in your debt, it's like, well, I pay that debt off with new episodes of the podcast that you enjoy. If that works for you, if that's a good deal for everybody. Anyways, we're close on that goal. I would love to start doing the podcast every other week, and sort of branch out with some of those ideas that I talked about on the Halloween special episode, which I hope everybody enjoyed. I hope everybody got a chance to listen to that before Halloween. And let me know, give me the feedback. Let me know, is that a thing that you guys want me to continue doing? You want me to do the Perfect 10 Christmas movie episode? Or do you just want the one-on-one conversations? Is that what you want more of? I'll tell you, we've got the next one scheduled, but who knows what will happen between now and then, in terms of maybe some other stuff. But the next one on the schedule, on the docket, is with Danielle, who you guys, if you listen to Faster, More Intense or Forced Perspectives, I've had Danielle on several times actually now. She's coming on Perfect 10 to talk about Avatar. Not The Last Airbender, Avatar, the blue cat people, obviously in advance of Avatar, The Way of Water coming out soon. So look forward to that episode coming soon. That'll be, I mean, that's the next one that I've got on the schedule right now, but I might actually have some other stuff coming between now and then. Maybe some fantasy related stuff, new series coming to Disney Plus, so there might be something worth popping back in to check out. on the feed before that next episode, talking about Avatar the original Avatar, in anticipation of Avatar: The Way of Water. I just recently saw Avatar again. I took Kara to see it in the movie theater when it was re-released, just because it's been so long since I've seen it, and she's never seen it, and certainly not in the movie theater. And although in the moment she definitely got a little bit bored in the second act, and then she wasn't a huge fan of the violence in the third act, particularly because of all of the animals that were getting hurt. That was kind of her thing. I Later on, we were at the Lego store, and she was like, "Oh, I want these Lego sets, the Avatar Lego sets," and it was like, that's what's on her Christmas list for this year. So I guess it made an impact. Which is awesome. I think that's great. So I'll talk more about that. We will talk in great depth, I'm sure, because Danielle is huge into the Avatar, and that was like the first thing that jumped to mind when I asked her to be on. So look forward to that. Other than coming in between. I'm being cagey because I'm actually not 100% sure what I'm allowed to talk about yet. So, but yeah, there's some cool stuff happening. So, yeah, man, that's it. So with that, without further ado, we'll get into it with David, who is he's just from Twitter. He's just a guy. He was on What the Force and all that. I talked a little bit about that in the episode already, but yeah, he was on that, and I heard him there and was like, this guy sounds like a cool guy. Followed him on Twitter. He is a great follow over on Twitter. Mindful _ Jedi, I think, is his Twitter handle. He says it at the end of the episode, if that's not it, but I'm pretty sure it is. And at a certain, when I put out the thing of like, hey, who wants to be on the podcast? Who wants to be on Perfect 10? He raised his hand, and I was like, awesome, let's get into it. Let's do it. And it was a great conversation about Kingdom Hearts. So without further ado, let's jump into that. Okay, let's get into it. My guest on this episode is David Brady. We know each other basically just from Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that our mutual connection is Marie Claire Gould from What the Force, right? I think that's that's sort of how we came to know one another, as happens on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are an accomplished, amazing artist, but also a very insightful fan of the Star Wars, and so I took note of that, gave you the follow, and then I think maybe when I first put out the call of like, hey, I'm doing this Perfect 10 show. Who's down to come hang out, and I think that you had sort of thrown in and be like, oh yeah, sounds good, sounds cool, and we started talking from there, and when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, you came back with Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, as I have been with everybody that I've had on the show so far, it's just been like, yeah, absolutely, let's talk about Kingdom Hearts. Like, what a great topic that I wouldn't have come to myself as necessarily something that I wanted to cover on Perfect 10, but it absolutely fits the bill. So thank you for being here. That's my roundabout way of just sort of re-introing you and saying thanks for being on the podcast and bringing this topic. I am super excited to talk about Kingdom Hearts with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm also really excited. And when you originally reached out, you're like, what's your Perfect 10? I'm like, okay, I could go Star Wars, but I think everyone's sick of hearing me talk about Star Wars, so I'll bore them with Kingdom Hearts now.
The thing is that Kingdom Hearts is so Star Wars adjacent that it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Yeah, for sure. before we get too deep into things, let's start the way that we always got to start Perfect 10. Can you please explain to the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Kingdom Hearts, what the heck is Kingdom Hearts?
What a loaded question. All right, I'm going to do my best to do this briefly, and we'll see how brief I can actually make it. Kingdom Hearts, at its core, is a story about a boy named Sora. He's mid to late teens, I think, at this point. And he gets to parade through a variety of Disney movies teamed up with Donald and Goofy.
Mm-hmm.
And also run into a variety of cast members from Final Fantasy. A crossover no one asked for, but we're all so glad we have.
Mm-hmm.
And as various threats of darkness throughout the games try to destroy and wipe out the universe, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are there at every turn to save the day.
Yeah. People may be vaguely familiar with Kingdom Hearts. Even if they don't know it, if you've ever been to an anime convention and you've seen somebody with what appears to be a giant key that they're carrying around, a big silver key with a gold handle on it, that's the Keyblade, which is sort of the central weapon of Sora, the hero in Kingdom Hearts, and a very important story element as it goes on. But yeah, I mean, like this. So that's a great top level on Kingdom Hearts, which is just like, to sort of sum up what you said. It is. I mean, it's a video game series first and foremost, but there's also a manga. There was almost an animated series, which actually the pilot, the animatic version of the pilot.
Did you see that like last week?
Yeah, I did watch as much of it as I could handle before I had to drop out of it and just go, you know what? I don't need this. I'm glad this didn't happen. I but I mean, yeah, like the main conceit of it is that you are a Final Fantasy RPG-esque character. Although like a little bit more of like a kid-friendly one than most of the characters from actual Final Fantasy games. And you traverse the various kingdoms of Disney, right? Like I think that's where the Kingdom Hearts title originally comes from. Is sort of like each one of these worlds, each one of the movies, each one of the big movies, initially in the first game is a world that you travel to and team up with the denizens of that world, and you're trying to stop all sorts of bad guys. It's so funny because it starts so simple in the first game of like, oh, it's the Heartless, right? And you're like, okay, so Maleficent and a bunch of other villains from these worlds have teamed up with the Heartless in order to capture the Princesses of Heart. You can guess who those are. They are all of the official Disney princesses, and by doing so, they'll be able to unlock the door to Kingdom Hearts. Now, I asked you this question already, but the game itself asks the question, and I don't think over, what is it? It's 12 games in the series so far. I don't think it's
like that.
ever sufficiently answered the question, what is Kingdom Hearts? But that's also the point is that like you can't answer it. It's an unanswerable question, and I think the only person who will ever really understand what Kingdom Hearts is within like the story itself is Tetsuya Nomura, and I don't even think that he understands it fully. I think it's like it's more of a feeling than anything, right? but the bad guys want their hands on it because it's power, right? They see it as power. And along the way, we find out that the Heartless aren't even the bad guys. The Heartless are actually being used by a bad guy named Ansem, and Ansem isn't even Ansem. Ansem is actually Ansem is actually Zemnis, but Zemnis is Ansem, and there's another guy that maybe is both of them or neither of them in another world, because there's like sometimes when you're asleep, then you have a different version of yourself.
I can clear this up if you want me to clear this up for you.
No, I love to talk about Kingdom Hearts as if I don't understand it, because like I do actually have a pretty good grasp on it, but it is just so absurdly convoluted in the most anime fashion. I love it because like a Disney movie seldom does the world and the mechanics of a Disney film, like an animated Disney film, actually make a lot of sense, right? Like let's go with one that seems really, really simple on the surface, and it's one of the worlds from the first game. Tarzan, right? My favorite Disney movie, Disney animated feature. Tarzan, super simple, right? He's raised by apes, and then Jane and her father come, and he finds out about the human world, and then he falls in love, and Clayton tries to kidnap all the apes to sell their pelts or whatever, and you got to stop him, right? Super simple on the surface, yet the mechanics of how Tarzan is able to communicate. I mean, obviously he's raised by the apes, so he can communicate with the apes. That one's easy. Why can he talk to the baboons? Can all of the apes talk to the baboons? Tantor seems to be able to talk to all of the apes. Can all of the elephants talk to the apes? Tarzan can talk to all of the elephants, but Tarzan's special and bridges worlds, right? So is that like his superpower, is that he can talk to, because he's a good mimic? That's what the movie establishes, right? So like that's the kind of logic that's in a Disney movie that like you can't probe too deep, right?
And then you can never do that.
And then you switch over and you talk about a Square, really, honestly, like Square Soft, right? Because we're talking about Final Fantasy, so we're even like before Square Enix. So we're talking
I
about
think the first one, you still boot that up and it still gives you the Square Soft logo, and you're like, "Oh,
yeah, long time ago." I grab any Final Fantasy game and try and make sense out of whatever world you've been tossed into. Final Fantasy VI, right, which we know in North America as Final Fantasy III. There are espers. Espers come from a different plane of existence, and they're magic. And Kefka wants to use that magic in order to power machines in his world so that he can conquer the world, because he wants to be Emperor Palpatine, right? But like that's like the surface of it, but then like, so every Esper is different. One's a giant whale, one's a phoenix, one's this, one's that. They're all Carbuncle is a cat with a jewel in its head. Some of them are based off of Greek myths. Some of them are based off of. Is Shiva in that one? I mean, I know Shiva's in other ones, but like. Yeah, Ifrit is often in there, which is more of like a Middle Eastern Indian deity. There's no rhyme or reason to which deities have been pulled into it. It's just all kind of a mishmash. And then as a character, you're able to summon the espers, but you're trying to stop Kefka from using the espers, but but you're using the espers, and when you do, then you learn their magic abilities, and you can switch them between characters, because there's a place where it's like there's a story happening with these things, but then there's also mechanics for the gameplay, and sometimes these things are at odds in almost every single Final Fantasy game. Where it's like, so you're taking that logic, you're taking the logic of a Disney movie, and you're smashing them together, and then you're trying to explain that you use gummy ships, which are ships made out of gummy blocks. Gummy like candy? Don't know. It's never really explained. They're just gummy ships. That's what they're called. Gummi. Chip and Dale build them for you. Not Chip and Dale from like the cartoons, but Chip and Dale from the kingdom that King Mickey is from, which is where the Donald and Goofy that you're hanging out with are also from. And like we never actually go to any of like those like the actual like Disney character, like the Fab Five, I'm saying, their world, except one time we go to the Steamboat Willie world where there's a different Mickey that's not King Mickey. So is this also a multiversal concept, or is it that there are worlds and you can traverse the space between these worlds? Super unclear. And just like, so there's like layers and layers of nonsense all stitched together with logic that is specious at best, I think. And and then on top of it, you've got what is actually like a really thoughtful, very like deep, mature story of like a coming of age story about free will and good versus evil and like the bonds of friendship and love and all of this stuff. That's actually a really, really good story, but that gets like almost mired in everything else that Kingdom Hearts is. And it like because you have to separate the layers if you want to really understand Kingdom Hearts, right?
Yeah, it's really easy to lose the forest through the trees with Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because even just aspects of it, like Roxas, who's introduced in the second game, right? Who it turns out is Sora's nobody, which a nobody is created when a person becomes a heartless, when they have their heart taken away, right? And so it was funny because everybody was like, "Who is Roxas? What is Roxas?" When the second game was coming out, and we found out about that character, and it took a long time before I realized that Roxas is the name Sora with an X inserted in the middle of it and rearranged, and Zemnis is Ansem with his name rearranged and an X inserted in it. Why an X? Because they're part of Organization 13.
Yeah.
Which has an X, and then in Roman numerals it has an X in it, so we put the X in their name. I that's the sort of thing that like that Nomura is so known for, like these flourishes of like there's a logic to that, but don't look at that because it's almost like the Prestige, right? Like he gets you so distracted with like, wait, so everybody in Organization 13 is a nobody, which means that like there's a heartless out there that that their heart belongs to and something, but there's an X in their names. Why is it an X in their names? And it's like it's just a distraction from what the actual story is, because none of that is actually relevant or really matters all that much. And we haven't even gotten into the birth by sleep. Let's go into the past and talk about whether or not these characters are reincarnated but also exist at the same time. That whole aspect of it.
Birth by Sleep's a fun one. You get all the Terra, Aqua, and Ven, just tragedies for about 10 years. They get to just all tragically exist in their own varying states of hell. Aqua in Kingdom Hearts' equivalent of actual hell. Ven gets off the easiest because they just put him in a coma for about 10, 12 years. And then, and then Terra's just possessed and split in two and just has to suffer as the main antagonist so far, Xehanort, is possessing his body and using him to just torment his friends and the universe for about 12 years.
Yeah, it's this thing of like, for me with Kingdom Hearts, there's an aspect of it where it's like it's only ever as complicated as you want to make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, when you play through the three mainline games, Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, and 4 is in development right now.
Thank God.
If you just want to play those mainline games, you're fine. You'll be fine. And every once in a while, some character is gonna crop up, and you're gonna be like, wait a second, who is this? You know, like who is this blonde girl that looks exactly like Kairi? Is this Kairi's nobody? Maybe, I don't know. Has that ever been answered?
Yeah, Naminé is Kairi's nobody.
Okay, yeah. So, like, because there's that component of it where it's like you have our three lead characters, right? The three central characters of the story, Sora, Riku, and Kairi, who are best friends from some little island that they hang out on. Um, their parents just let them paddle out to this island and hang out there all day, I guess. They do have parents, that is established in the series,
It is.
but it's never important. But
Nope.
they do have whole families, but they only care about the three of them. So they're sort of like our main template, and then we have the nobodies that mirror them of Roxas, Naminé, and Axel, right? Like Axel is kind
Yeah.
of meant to be, even though like is Axel isn't actually Riku's nobody, right? Like Axel belongs to somebody else, but
Yeah. Axel is Axel's his own character. He's not tied to Riku.
yeah, but within like the template of it, he's very much like there's the three of them, and then as you mentioned before, Ven, Terra, and Aqua are like from 1,000 years ago or something like that. I back when they. Because when you play the first game, Sora gets the Keyblade, and it's a whole thing of like there's a moment when because Riku turns bad. Riku is tempted by the dark side, and falls to the dark side, and he's a bad guy. And there's a moment where where Sora becomes unworthy of the Keyblade, and Riku takes it from him. And we're led to believe in that first game that there's only one Keyblade, right? Until we get towards the end of the game, and we find out that as a matter of fact, Mickey Mouse himself, King Mickey, also has a Keyblade.
How could you not?
Of course. And his is inverted. It's a gold key with a silver handle, which tells us that he's awesome. That's it. That's all that tells us. I and then later on, like by the time we get to Birth by Sleep, we find out that actually Keyblade wielders, which was like first hinted in a post-credit scene before the Marvel Cinematic Universe was doing post-credit scenes, by the way. Like, let's just give credit where credit is due to Kingdom Hearts, because they really like nailed the post-credit scene before anybody else, in my opinion.
They've been rocking those since 2001, I think.
Yeah,
They've been rocking the post-credit scenes.
Because at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, the full secret ending of the final mix version, right? We get the video of the Keyblade wielders, and we find out that actually like a long time ago there were like hundreds of Keyblade wielders. They're basically Jedi. I mean,
So
like
the
I
fun
said,
part with the Jedi thing is,
yeah.
I think Birth by Sleep's only 10 years before, but then there's like 100
Okay.
years before them, and then there's you end up finding out the Keyblade wielders used to be a dime a dozen. But with the Terra, Aqua, and Ven's masters voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And to me it's like this is the piece, that's the piece of it that is the most obvious to me, and I don't know that Nomura has ever talked about it, but at a certain point he did just make the Keyblade a lightsaber and make the Keyblade wielders Jedi, like in within the lore. It's funny because I think there's a lot of evidence pointing towards, and we were all hoping, I think, that in Kingdom Hearts 3 we would get Marvel and Star Wars added in, right? Because in 2, all of a sudden we expanded the world, and it wasn't just the animated stuff. You go to Pirates of the Caribbean and you go to Tron, right? So all of a sudden we're in live action stuff as well. And so everybody was like, oh, and 3, now that because 2 came out a very long time ago, long before the Disney Mega Omnicorp had purchased every other IP on the planet. But now that they do,
We were still stuck with Eisner. We wouldn't have Iger buying the planet yet.
yeah. Everybody was hoping for Star Wars and Marvel in 3, right? But it seems like in 4, I don't think that we've gotten any hints at any of the Marvel stuff yet. But in the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, some people think that they can see the leg of an ATST in the background, and that we're finally going to. We're finally after. I mean, like seriously, even before Star Wars and Disney were a going concern, I like that whole aspect of it. Fans just imagined what a Keyblade would look like if it were a lightsaber, because we also imagine what it would look like if Wolverine had lightsaber claws, and
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah, yeah,
lightsabers are
yeah.
just awesome. So that's just been something that's been out there in the fan community forever, and now it feels like we're within 5 to 10 years of getting to see it in a game, because
Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts games come out when they come out, and we should just be grateful for it.
exactly. I think Star Wars and Kingdom Hearts is something Nomura has also wanted to do for a
Yeah.
long time. I mean, the Mark Hamill thing aside, I know he worked on the original run of 7, and they've got Biggs and the other character as part of Avalanche. I'm totally forgetting the other one's name, but they're like Luke's friends on Tatooine or whatever. Um,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Biggs and Wedge, is that?
Biggs and Wedge. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is like, yeah, because that's a whole thing. Yeah, since I think actually even since 6, Biggs and Wedge have appeared in every Final Fantasy game.
That's
Um,
incredible. I love that.
yeah, which is and I think that was like a localization thing. It's just that there's Japanese names, and they just needed like side character names, and somebody was just like, let's just call them Biggs and Wedge.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. I love that. And then there's like one gummy ship level in 2, as you're going into like the final world. That's basically, they were just like, all right, we're just gonna do the trench run from A New Hope, and that's
Yeah.
gonna be the level. Everything looks very Death Star. So I think it's something he's been playing with and really wanting to do for a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got it.
Yeah, yeah. I think all of his, all of Nomura's stuff, because Nomura isn't just responsible for Kingdom Hearts. Obviously, he's integral with everything since FF7, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
basically
almost everything
he's
that Square stuff.
spearheading the 7 remake stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to get into it, there's the Final Fantasy versus 13 becoming 15, and that mess, and how that's basically he's repurposing all the he got. So he was originally on Final Fantasy versus 13.
Mm-hmm.
He got too busy, and Square pulled him from the project, and he's been livid about it for years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically, and then they made 15, and 15 is fine. It would have been cool if it was finished. But he's basically now taking the main character of that, Noctis, renaming him. He's now thrown him into Kingdom Hearts and is making him like a big deal character in this new world Sora's going to in 4. Now that Sora's dead. And because that's what happens. So Sora's in hell now. But this new character, Yuzora, is Noctis straight out of Versus 13, and he's just going to use Kingdom Hearts to tell the story he originally wanted to tell. So if you want any idea of where the series is going, besides playing all the games, if you play 15, he's going to be pulling bits and pieces out of what he wanted to originally do with that game to go forward.
Yeah.
He's a vindictive man.
Now, and was he one of the directors on, or did he direct 12 as well?
I'm not sure if he worked on 12. I'm not sure.
'Cause
I know he was definitely
12
part of 13.
12 is the most blatant Star Wars ripoff that Final Fantasy has ever done. Like 12 is literally like if you took Star Wars and Final Fantasy and you mashed them together, what would you get? Yeah, it's so, I mean, like every main character in Star Wars is represented somewhere in 12.
I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's get into it's so hard to stay on what is on topic with talking about Kingdom Hearts as a perfect 10, right? Because we don't have the time that it would take to sum up the whole story. Essentially, bad guys want to use Kingdom Hearts for evil, and Sora wants to stop them along with King Mickey, and then Riku is pulled between these worlds, but ultimately is a good guy I mean, really, since the middle of 2, Riku's a good guy, so he's not really pulled between two worlds anymore. But he's sort of our recovered hero, and then Kairi will hopefully like do more in the next one.
God,
She did a fair bit in 3, but I hope I would like, I'd really like them to make a side game with Kairi where she's the lead character, that's action based, and let her actually like exist separate from the other 2 characters and not just as their token girl, female.
Yeah,
friend.
when we had playable Kyrie in the DLC for 3, and I was like, thank God it's been almost 20 years. Took you long enough.
Yeah.
Every other main character's been playable except her. All of the other 12 main characters. But yeah, so generally, the big overall points is Xehanort, who is the big bad throughout all of his various incarnations and possessions and forms of self, is trying to use Kingdom Hearts to kind of nuke the universe because he believes the universe has been tainted by darkness and wants to use Kingdom Hearts to plunge the universe into darkness so that it can start off fresh, all of light. He's just going to purge the universe to cleanse it is basically his goal, which you find out once you get introduced to him like 6 games in what his actual deal is. But all of his other minions that are running around and trying to accomplish this goal is Sora's stopping them time and time again. Sora's just trying to save everybody. Sora's great. I think Sora comes off as really childish a lot of the time in some of the things, and I think that can grate some people for a bit. He's just having like the very good character being the main hero who doesn't have a lot of just kind of more depth. He's just ray of sunshine almost about 24/7.
Yeah,
not much can get this kid down. He's ready to go. And I think it's really emphasized a lot in kind of the final boss rush in 3 as he's kind of tying up all the loose ends with all the various rogues gallery villains. And he's basically, the plan's foiled, the game's up. They're all kind of realizing this one by one, and he's basically just getting this chance to be like, hey guys, and just be kind to them. And they're like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be a bad person. Maybe I should go go rethink some things. And like, this is after they went and killed all of his friends, and Sora fixed that. But he's just like, yeah, you guys killed all my friends, and that was a rough 24 hours. But but besides that, you guys can go do good things, go do good work. And there's maybe 2 characters that kind of don't take that lead. One of them who's going on to become a further problem down the line, and then one of them is just darkness incarnate, so he can't. But the rest of them are all like, oh yeah, now that we're gonna go have this second or third lease on life, maybe we go change it up. Let's go, find those lost family members or friends that we hurt and kind of fix it. And even Xehanort, the ultimate bad guy, his Mark Hamill's character shows up at the end, and he's like, dude, the superior Mark Hamill Force Ghost sequence, by the way. And he's just like, all right, my man, enough's enough. And then they end up having a nice moment, and then they get to pass into Kingdom Hearts together. But even like the bad guy, he gets a small little redemption moment, realizes he was wrong, passes off the ultimate weapon to Sora, and he's like, all right, you got me. Touche.
Yeah.
I think friendship wins. and then he gets to go to heaven.
Yeah. I think the key, pun intended, with Sora is that he is like he's pure of heart, and everything that he does out of like love for his friends, right?
Yep.
And so he is, from a hero's journey perspective, right? Like if we're going to go into the Campbellian aspect of it, which is really hard with this one because it follows no structure whatsoever. But
We should phone MC in for this.
yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, like, I would love to get like just MC and Ty to just like dig into Kingdom Hearts and like try and make sense of like the thematic elements of it, because there's just so much going on, and some of it is so blatantly surface, like Sora himself, who is just like you say, like he's a ray of sunshine, right? And I look at him like he is the elixir, right? Which, like, when we talk about Star Wars, and you can hear MC and Ty talk about this a lot with the Mandalorian, like Grogu, right? Grogu is also the elixir, right? Every character that comes in contact with Grogu, every place they go in the Mandalorian, when we revisit it later on, or revisit one of those characters, they've been healed. And like he literally does this as well, right? He literally heals Grief Karga at the end of the first season. And then the next time that we come back and we see Grief Karga, he's no longer this like a guy handing out bounties or whatever. Now he's this like magistrate, right? He's got the fancy outfit, and the planet that was just lava fields is now starting to bloom again, and all of that sort of thing. Sora is a very similar character, where like everywhere he goes, he like it is his job to bring people together and forge new friendships. And that's why by the end of 3, you do have like 12 playable characters, and you're swapping off with a bunch of them and stuff, because every enemy, every adversary that he comes across, not every, but like a lot of the adversaries that he comes across, mostly like characters that are created for this story, right? Like Hades isn't going to join up with Sora, but like all of these other characters like Axel and others who are originally seen as bad guys, they end up on your side, because like you just like no one can hate Sora. It's impossible to hate Sora.
And one of the things I love about Sora, outside of his person, is the more you go into the story, unlike Grogu, who is Grogu comes into the story, right? Into the story, and he starts being able to set things right. Sora exists solely because of the actions and suffering that everyone else had to endure. Sora is the end result. He's the last link in the chain. So Sora is kind of basically everything everyone's been working towards is what Sora is. So he can only be able to save and heal and help everyone because of the actions, even though the actions the bad guys had taken. So he's, which is, I think, really cool. So like when you're talking about him being the elixir and all that, it's because the community basically came together, and they're like, all right, here's the kid, and the kid's like, all right, well, I guess I'll fix your mess that you all made for me, thank you. And he just takes it in. It's just kindness, just straight down the boards, and he's like, all right, let's have it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think what we mentioned before is that people kind of bristle at that character a little bit sometimes, because so many people. I mean, Black Adam just came out last week, and I unfortunately went and saw it. My brother wanted to go see it, and so I went to see it with him, and that's what people think they want. People think they want a character who is heroic, but that like will just toss people 1,000 feet into the air and watch them die. Like I like the anti-hero thing. Like people think that they want edgy, dark, mature versions of these characters. and Sora is like so just flying in the face of that, right? Like he is just optimism and hope and love and kindness and compassion and all of these things that we
Mhm.
actually really consider to be heroic, right? Like these are the things that in the real true sense of heroism, selflessness and compassion and love and empathy are things that we actually value, whether it's what we want our media to reflect or not. At the end of the day, when a character is redeemed, which we all talk about redemption being so important in storytelling, it's a character trying to return to that state, right? But Sora, it just is like he just is all the time. He's voiced by Haley Joel Osment, which, as the years have gone on, has become even like more and more of a ridiculous notion. Because
It
Sora
is
hasn't aged that much, but Haley Joel Osment sure as hell has.
it is incredible how that the fact that I don't know, like he's what, like 32 or something now, he can
Yeah,
still pull that voice off. Like it's changed throughout the years, and it gets a
yeah,
bit sillier when they put him back in the Kingdom Hearts 1 character model, and you're like, it doesn't work. There's a few of the games that they've done that, and it's like, the work's less good. But like in the mainline games,
yeah.
like as he goes, you can like tell it's like, okay, he feels like he's a year older in each of these. It doesn't feel like it's been 20 years, and he's
Yeah.
still pulling it off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for 4 because 4 is the one that's kind of like the character model for Sora. He's the most realistic that he's ever looked, right? Like
Yeah.
there's still cartoony elements to it, but like the big shoes are gone, the floppiness is sort of not there. Um,
Yeah, so like what I was talking about there, so what's happening with that is, like I said, Sora's dead now.
yeah,
He's the way they're describing it is there's another flip side, because Kingdom Hearts likes having their flip side worlds. You get the light and the dark world, and then you have
yeah,
like their world and the sleeping world, and they like their flip upside down worlds. So they're calling it either reality and unreality, or fiction and nonfiction. And the Kingdom Hearts characters all believe they live in reality. They
yeah,
all live in the real world. And now that Sora has passed on in efforts to save his friends, he's now passed on to unreality, which seems to be just Tokyo. He's
yeah.
just in the real world now, and that's why everything's gray and drab. He looks super realistic. It's because he's here now. This is
Yeah.
where you go after you've died in a Disney movie, apparently.
And I'm so excited by it because it to me it is the perfect setup, having him pass into, I guess it's unreality, right? But unreality actually being our reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then in order to get back to his friends, he's going to have to probably once again journey through these layers in order to get back to where everybody else is. And if he's got to pass through like the MCU and Star Wars to get there, where it's like, well, these are just a degree or two off of reality, right? Like
Yeah,
Star Wars is still pretty realistic compared certainly to Alice in Wonderland, right? So it's like
yeah.
if he's stuck fully on that other side, and now like in order to get back to the Disney side of it, he's got to go through these other things. And if we can get maybe some of us, look, listen, we're so far off format, but I don't care because it's Kingdom Hearts. There is no format. I'm gonna say what my dream world in Kingdom Hearts is, the world that I most desire for Sora and crew to travel to,
Go
and
for
then
it.
I want you to give yours. Because we got to be somewhere within the Disney property, right?
Yeah.
But if we already feel like, look, I don't have to put Star Wars in there because it's a lock. We are like 90% sure, if not like 99% sure, that Star Wars is happening in Kingdom Hearts 4. If Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars is happening, then MCU is almost certainly also happening, right?
For sure.
whether or not we actually go to like MCU Battle of New York or something like that, which is what Nomura would do, he would absolutely just drop us in at the end of Avengers with those characters. If not that, I could see a world where like half of the summons in the game are Avengers, right? Where it's just like that's just the way that it goes. And then he'll just throw Wolverine in as well because he would do that.
Honestly, because
it would be wild if the first time we ever got to see MCU Wolverine was in a Kingdom Hearts game. That would be the most like Kevin Feige / Nomura way to do that, is to give everybody exactly what they want in the way that they least ever expected or wanted it to happen. But the world that I need, and longtime listeners of my podcast will probably already know where I'm going. The world that I most absolutely need to see in a video game and restored to its rightful place within the Disney hierarchy is Barsoom. So John Carter, right? Because I love that movie and I love that world, and it's a tragedy that we didn't get to live there for a longer time. And it's absolutely criminal that Taylor Kitsch has been sort of saddled with the remnants of the career that he has because of what happened with that movie. I would love to see, in the same way that, like, look, I don't think that Tron Legacy happens if Space Paranoids is not a world in Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't think it would have happened.
Oh, interesting. All right.
I think that Kingdom Hearts 2 bringing Tron back into pop culture consciousness contributed a great deal. I think it put it back on Disney's radar. They all of a sudden saw that a bunch of huge nerds were like, man, Tron is awesome. What happened to that? Right. And like the internet was like, because when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, I think that of all of the new worlds that were added, Tron was the one that people like sort of lost it over. It was like light cycles, and so I think
on the internet at the time. I was in 5th grade, so I missed that entire reaction to that.
Yeah. People loved that Kingdom Hearts was going there, right? It was like Pirates of the Caribbean, because Pirates of the Caribbean was still fairly fresh at that point in time. I think we only had like 2 movies when Kingdom Hearts came out. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, and people loved Pirates of the Caribbean at that point. It hadn't overstayed its welcome yet, which it absolutely has now. Which is so unfortunate, because that first movie is so good. But I think that when you get to that part of the story and it's like, oh, we're gonna go inside the computer, and that Space Paranoids name comes up, and all of a sudden it's like it's not just that Nomura went, oh, Tron is cool. Nomura went like they were like, hey, what do you like? Like what's a Disney thing that you really like? And he was like, hold on to your identity discs, everybody, because he like went so hard with Space Paranoids. And then it sucks that Tron Legacy is relegated to it's in Dream Drop distance, right? And so, which is one that like that was a DS or 3DS. I can't. Dream Distance. There are 3 Ds in it, because that's why it's called Dream Drop Distance. Nomura is just a troll. Like I don't know that people understand this, but he is just messing with everybody, because he's like, hey, Kingdom Hearts 3DS, 3D. It's a 3D game. Dream Drop Distance, guys. What does Dream Drop Distance mean? Nothing. It's 3 words that start with the letter D. 3D. It's on the 3DS, you guys. Are you following me? And everybody's like, but what does it mean, Nomura? And he's like, that's what it means. That's it.
I think he actually gave an explanation at one point, and two of them made sense. Dream made sense because it's the dreaming world. Drop is like the drop mechanic where you're switching between Riku and Sora, and he's like, and then the distance is how far they are from apart. I'm like, all right, you're stretching. You've lost it now. You had me with the first thing.
The counter, right? Like the countdown timer is the distance thing, and anyways. So like we eventually got to see the Tron Legacy world brought into that one, but but it being on the 3DS, it doesn't do it justice. So I really hope that we get to revisit that, like Kingdom Hearts 4 on the PS5 presumably, and I guess Xbox One S or one I don't what are they? What's the Xbox One?
I couldn't tell you the Xbox naming convention if I tried.
Yeah, it's so dumb, so dumb. Hey, here we are, the two of us. We're like just going off about Kingdom Hearts and the ridiculousness of Kingdom Hearts, and then it's like Xbox, and we're like, what the stupid naming conventions of the Xbox.
I know Kingdom Hearts so deeply and intricately. I know everything going on with the letter X in Kingdom Hearts, with the organization and the Keyblade that's spelled with an X. I can follow that perfectly fine. X's everywhere. Xbox S Series X? No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I think that's not even a thing I just said. But I can't follow the Xbox titles if I wanted to.
I don't know. Yeah, PS5. Everyone just get a PlayStation. Be a cool person to get a PlayStation. Come on. So I love that Microsoft is constantly like, what are we going to call this new console? I don't know. Why don't we call it the Xbox 360? Okay. What are you going to call the next one? The Xbox One, but it's the third console. Exactly. So okay, whatever. Meanwhile, PlayStation and Nintendo's like this one's the Nintendo, this one's the Super Nintendo, this one's the Nintendo 64, this one's the GameCube because it's a cube, and like they get the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch, because they get more and more clever with their names and the silliness of their names. Meanwhile, PlayStation, Sony's just over here like, just increase the number.
It's 2 now.
Yeah, it's just
we're gonna go with that
one. Yeah, and at no point is anybody ever like, that's really lame that they just keep incrementing the number. It's like, no, the PS5. It's super easy to explain. It might. My parents could understand.
Yeah, everyone's looking at here like
is.
Phone names. Like they were like, all right, this is the iPhone X, but the last one was 8. Yeah. And PlayStation's like, we're just going up. It's fine. Windows trying to do like their naming system, and then they're at 8.1. Everyone's just like, Sony's just like, no.
Yeah.
1, 2, count with us. 3.
Hey Sony, what are you gonna call your portable handheld system? PlayStation Portable. And then the Vita came out. The Vita had a Vita, but Vita means life, so that's okay. That was like a catchphrase back then. But even like it's like, oh, Sony's gonna put out a PlayStation VR headset. What are they gonna call it? PlayStation VR. Thank you, Sony, for keeping it simple so that we can use our brain power, what little we can devote to it, to trying to figure out why things are named what they're named in Kingdom Hearts, which is much more important. So back to John Carter. I just think that because the conceit in John Carter is that John Carter himself, when he gets to Barsoom, Mars, right? Mars has a different gravity, and because of Mars's different gravity, John Carter is a superhero. He can leap tall buildings in a single bound. He's got incredible strength, and then he's also a badass soldier on top of that. So, for the Confederacy, but we're gonna overlook that because it was a long time ago. And actually, it's an important thematic aspect of it that he was a Confederate soldier, because there's a whole thing of like the different tribes of Mars and stuff. We don't have time to get into that right now. I'll do John Carter Perfect 10 at some point, and we'll get into it. Edgar Rice Burroughs did it on purpose. He was a Confederate soldier on purpose, not because he was a racist. There's a positive message in it. In the books, and we never get there in the movie because we only get the first movie. In the books, like he becomes the king and leads Barsoom into like a golden age sort of thing, and it's because of like his experiences during the Civil War and fighting for the wrong side and being the bad guy and realizing that he was the bad guy that he is able to be a good leader. So anyways, the whole thing. But if Sora, Donald, and Goofy end up on Barsoom, then they will also have superpowers, right? Like, yeah. So Sora, so the game mechanics, this isn't just about me going like, I want this world because I love John Carter so much, which I do, and that is why. But then like the gameplay lends itself to this world, and to have and you get Taylor Kitsch back. You get him to come back and voice that character, and you don't retell the story of the first movie. You use this as an opportunity to continue the story. You get him back to Barsoom, because that's the whole thing of the second story, is him getting back to Mars. And I mean, it would be phenomenal. It would be phenomenal to like start in man, where is he at the end of the first movie? Like Montana or something, or Utah or something like that, to start with him there and him trying to figure out how he's going to get back, and for Sora and Donald and Goofy to help him get back to Barsoom, and then reclaim his throne. Would be
so. This is how
fantastic.
it works, right? This is I tell you how this works, right? Kingdom Hearts 4. Sora's trying to come back from the dead, right? So he's navigating Earth. He takes a flight from Tokyo to New York. Boom. We take care of the Avengers. All right. Now we go over to Montana. We get Sora back into space.
No, it is perfect.
We do Star Wars.
Oh man, it's been so long since I've like been deep into the John Carter lore. The pendant, the Thurn pendant, right? Mm-hmm. Has the ability to transport you from one place to another, right? Just by saying the words of where you want to go, right? And so it's a perfect MacGuffin for Sora to be looking for, is to find one of these pendants so that he can return to his friends, right? I mean, like, that just writes itself. Nomura, I'm here, man. Like, this one's free. This one's free. Let this stand as a contract that I don't require payment. Doing that story in Kingdom Hearts 4 is payment enough. It's all I require. You can have that one. Now, if you want to do more with that character in that world, then I think that maybe Nomura, you, me, and Andrew Stanton should all sit down and have a conversation. Just because I want to do that. But no. So that's mine. That is my dream world for Kingdom Hearts 4. What do you want to see in Kingdom Hearts 4?
All right, mine's much less dramatic and and less epic of a thing. But some of my favorite worlds, to the probably contradiction to many, is at least in 2. I love 100 Acre Woods. I love it. I love all those mini games. They're fantastic. An option I chose for Perfect 10, or I was thinking about mulling over, Mary Poppins. I would love Mary Poppins as just like a side mini game world where you just go over there and like one of the mini games you're jumping in and out of the chalk pictures. You know, something small like that. I'm like, let's Sora go over to London. We can pull Emily Blunt in because they're pulling in the big names now for Frozen. They got Josh Gad and Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell and all of them back because apparently they have the budget for that now. I think that was more Disney saying, hey, we're doing Frozen and we're not letting anyone else do these characters, so you guys are showing up now. Because for Pirates, they didn't get Johnny Depp or Orlando Bloom or Keira Knightley or Jeffrey Rush.
No, I'm sure they probably just got James Arnold Taylor to voice all 3, right?
They did. I know he did James Arnold. I know he did Jack in 2. I don't think he did Jack in 3. Which was fine. But and that they did get the guy who did Gibbs, though. They did get him for Pirates, which was nice. But like we get Emily Blunt in, right? We do a small Mary Poppins where we just circle back to London every year. He's been to London. He's done Peter Pan, roughly the same time period. He just he just circles back to London and he just hangs out and does the mini games with Mary Poppins. I'd love that. That'd be great for me. They've tackled most of my big Disney properties at this point because the 90s animated stuff is all my favorite, and then Pirates. So they've already taken all of my favorites off the board. So I'd like a nice small, nice good mini game world out of Mary Poppins. I think would be nice.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Man, is there any sort of the background stuff that you want to get into, that you want to talk about with Kingdom Hearts?
So I mean, there's all the lore stuff, and I think one of the things with the lore. It's complicated. I think it's, if anyone who's listening to this has not played Kingdom Hearts and is thinking about it, and we've done such a great job in selling you on this, I gotta if you're thinking about picking it up, I would recommend release order. Not like in a Star Wars fan way where you gotta start with A New Hope because that's like the real Star Wars. No. It's more kind of like in a if you're gonna start with Lord of the Rings, you should read The Hobbit, and then you should read Lord of the Rings, and then the Silmarillion, because if you start with the Silmarillion, you're going to get lost. It's kind of, he starts with The Hobbit, and you're like, okay, this is the story, and then you get to Lord of the Rings, and you're like, oh, the Necromancer is Sauron, and this is what the One Ring is, Bilbo's ring is, and it peels back the layers, and you're like, all right, Sauron was the bad guy, and then Silmarillion's like, not quite. It's kind of like peeling back the layers if you kind of do release order. And you learn more and more about Xehanort, who was the current big bad guy. We're getting into a new one who's I am so excited for. He seems like an absolute dream of a big bad guy. But Xehanort, I think, is really, and he's just got so many plans. He's got so many versions of himself. He pulls himself out of the past. The two other main big bad guys in Kingdom Hearts through this era were Ansem and Xemnas, who are Xehanort's both Heartless and Nobody, respectively, and he basically sends them out into the world to create chaos after he gets split in two. And he's just got, basically, he sees this chessboard in front of him, and just like the planning this man has. If you thought Palpatine was smart, you've got another thing coming. Xehanort wipes the floor with Palpatine every day of the week.
Palpatine only had to consider one galaxy, right? Like,
yeah,
Xehanort's like worried about like multiple worlds across universes and mirror versions of those things, and yeah.
Yeah, no, Palpatine's like, I kind of came back from the dead one time, and Xehanort's like, how did you even die? You should have had like 6 bodies lined up. What are you doing?
Yeah. Xehanort hangs out with Palpatine and Voldemort and is like, really, guys? That's it? That's all you did? your machinations in this whole galaxy, and you take over with these clone troopers and stuff, and you manipulate this kid and you turn him into a bad guy and stuff, and then you over there, you split your soul into a bunch of pieces and put him in all these things, but then you look like a snake man, whatever is going on there. You're just horrific to look at, and you got killed by a baby. What are you doing, guys? I did all of the things that you guys did, all of them, and I'm still beautiful, Xehanort, yeah.
He's like, I just look like a normal 80-year-old. What are you guys doing? And then and also he has like a goal. Like, he basically wants to reset and like restore the universe. His whole personality kind of, or goal being like, all right, we got to reset the universe. I can't do that as a good guy. I'm the bad guy, I guess. Fine, whatever. Yeah. If I reset the universe, all of the bad things I do go away anyway. It's fine. It's kind of this thing.
It's very Thanos. It's like because Thanos' whole thing is like, look, I'm going to do the thing that nobody else has the will to do. And does that make me a bad person? Maybe. But the universe will thank me, right? Like that's his whole attitude towards it, which is obviously not the case. Which is why he goes full evil in Endgame when he realizes that he does all of this stuff and then everybody is ungrateful. So he's like, okay, next time I'll just wipe out everything and there will be nobody to interfere with anything.
It is very Thanos-esque. It's good. I haven't actually thought about that comparison, mainly because I hate MCU Thanos. So I love that character. I love all the exploration of him. Fun fact, the Keyblade was originally going to be a chainsaw.
That would have been a very different vibe. Hey, here's a 12-year-old kid with a chainsaw in Alice in Wonderland. Why?
There's this concept art from when they were pitching the game, and the game originally started out because Disney Games, I don't even remember what the company was. The Disney Video Games division and Squaresoft were in the same building, and they were basically just, some people were in the elevator together, and they were like, what if we did a crossover? And they've been like, yeah, that was ridiculous. And then Nomura walked into a board meeting and was just like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But some of the early concept art, you see Sora, he's got like cat ears and like a lion tail, and he's holding like a chainsaw over like the back of him. He still looks exactly the same. Big shorts, big shoes, they give him the ears and the tail, and he's holding like a chainsaw sword instead because it's square. And they just walked off of Leon with the gunblade, and they're like, "Oh, what else?"
Yeah.
And Disney looks at them and said, "Get rid of the chainsaw, but we like it."
I love it because there is an evolution there, right? Because it's like Cloud Strife. What's his deal? Really big sword. Cool. Squall Leonhardt. We're at Cloud Strife, Squall Leonhardt. We're still going with the weather-based phenomena for the names. Cool. What's his deal? Really big sword with a gun in it. Awesome, rad, super cool. Also a great leather jacket. Next character. Who's this guy going to be? Sora. Which what's a Sora mean? Isn't it like sun or something?
Sora means sky, so they get sky. Yeah. Rikuli is land, Kairi is water, and then obviously Terra, Aqua, and Ven are the land.
So Sora is sky, so it's like you go cloud, squall, sky.
Yep.
Right? It's just, and what's he got? A chainsaw sword. Like, not gonna work with Disney. Okay.
We like the premise though.
A really big key. Yeah.
And the only reason Sora exists as a character is because when they originally pitched the idea, it was going to be Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. And Disney was still kind of timid on it. They're like, we'll let you do it, but we're not giving you him. You can have anybody else you want, not the mouse. We're still not 100% sold on it. And they're like, well, can we use him at all? And they're like, you get 2 seconds with him. So they toss Mickey in the last 2 seconds of the game. And then the game did very well. And then they were like, okay, you can play with Mickey in 2. You can use Mickey now.
and you can seemingly kill Goofy. Oh my God, man. Kingdom Hearts 2. That moment is such a gut wrencher when you're like, did they just seriously kill Goofy? And like Donald is like about to lose it. Like you're like, oh, because if we didn't really explain this earlier, so if you don't have any frame of reference for it, Goofy is the captain of King Mickey's guard, and Donald is his like sorcerer, his mage, right? So Donald has like a staff and like shoots fireballs and stuff, and you're like, is Donald about to go like full dark side and like use meteor or something like that? Like that's a Final Fantasy attack.
Even before that, you've got Mickey. He just like watches like Sora and Donald just rush Goofy's body, and like both start to like sob and like deny the existence of Goofy just getting clocked in the head so hard with a rock that everyone thinks he's dead. He's not responding, and Mickey's just sitting there and just staring in like complete disbelief, clenches his fist, says, "They'll pay for this," throws off his overcoat, pulls out his keyblade in a reverse clip, and then just beelines it towards the bad guy.
It's so good. It's so good because this was an era. So people might not know this about the way that Disney treated Mickey Mouse, is that like at one point in time, people were pretty like creators were pretty free with what they could do with Mickey, and then in the 90s, an animated short called Runaway Brain came out.
I love that short.
It's so good, but Disney has almost like tried to deny that it ever existed, because in it, an evil scientist swaps Mickey's brain with a monster's brain, and so Mickey Mouse's body with this monster's brain in it goes and does a bunch of evil stuff. And the scientist who did this gets like electrified and crumbles to dust because of his own experiment. Right? It's intense. Like Runaway Brain is you're like, how did Disney make this? But there was like a blowback after it came out because I guess some people, because it was the 90s, probably like a mom group or something like that got
Oh, for sure, a mom group.
signed or something.
Only a mom group would complain about Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, exactly. And so Disney has been so gun shy with that character for so long. So I think like Kingdom Hearts has been one of the only places where they were able to experiment with that. And Kingdom Hearts 2, when they allowed them to like just unleash Mickey in that way, it was like, I think for a lot of us, it was like, whoa, like we've never seen Mickey like this before. It's so cool. But the funny thing is that I think in the same way that I talk about like the Space Paranoids world leading to Tron Legacy, I think that Kingdom Hearts and Nomura, with this silly little project that he had sort of on the side that nobody at Disney was really paying attention to, because it's just a video game, right?
Yeah.
Like at the time they're like, it's just a video game, and this is PS2 era, right? So this is right when video games are about to go from being a kid's distraction from their homework to being the primary source of entertainment for every generation that's come since, right?
Yeah.
And now like the video game industry, it dwarfs film and television in terms of revenue by like, I think it's like tenfold. Like it's crazy how much money video games make, and what a big industry it is.
Yeah, it's because they don't cancel their projects to save tax, David Zaslav.
Oh boy. Hopefully James Gunn is going to sort all of that nonsense out. If I were him day one in that role, I'd be like, how do we get Batgirl back in the theater? Because that's tragic, right? As a creative, I think like it's he would feel that. But anyways, well, we can't afford to get into that topic. I think that Kingdom Hearts and Mickey and Donald and Goofy and the way that those characters were allowed to be used in that opened up Disney to realizing that they needed to actually let go of the reins on those characters a little bit more. And eventually we get to the world of Mickey Mouse cartoons that we've got now, where they redesigned the character. They brought him back to his roots of like being a sort of like a madcap, like a real cartoon character again, right? Not
and I think in between there, you get that really crucial step of Epic Mickey being in there. I think that was
absolutely, 100%, Epic Mickey. Which, like, listen, gameplay wise, not there.
No,
a real slog to get through.
I think that's just because it's on the Wii. If that was on any other system.
Epic Mickey and Epic Mickey 2 are rough games to play, but in terms of story, they are two of my favorite video games of all time. Like Epic Mickey is such a good game, and the story of Oswald. I mean, like I'd love to see Oswald show up in Kingdom Hearts as well. I think man, let's go to the Epic Mickey world. Like let's just go straight there to Epic Mickey with Sora. Actually have good gameplay in that world.
It's just on a table in Yensid's office because Yensid's in Kingdom Hearts, so you can just hop over.
Bingo. Yeah, but like I think I think the video games did allow them to experiment with those characters a little bit, and then realize that there's actually value in allowing Mickey to be flexible in what he can be. He can be the mascot at the theme park and pose for pictures with the kids, but then he can also be a ridiculous, absurdist cartoon character like he is in the world of Mickey Mouse stuff. Which I love those cartoons so much. Everything that they've done has been so good. And now like they're bringing that into the park with the rides, right? Runaway Train, I think is what it's called. Which is open in Florida, and I think it opens soon in California.
It's so close. I want to know if they intentionally made it very close naming wise to Runaway Brain. Like they were like, we know. We're like,
I feel like I feel like there's got to be a connection. Like there's got to be like somebody who was like, let's call it Runaway Train.
It's going to be one of the Imagineers is like, this is what we're calling it, and because I'm trying to link it to this, and the executives are like, oh yeah, that's a good name, that makes sense, and they're like, we're not thinking about it.
Totally. Yeah. Awesome. Look, we've been talking for over an hour about Kingdom Hearts, and I'm sure that we could go on forever. Is there anything else you want to cover off before we do you want to talk a little bit about like your personal connection to it? Because we've kind of talked around that, but never really gotten into like the actual one-on-one aspect of it.
For sure. My history with it's pretty straightforward. Disney was huge kind of in my household. It stuck with me the most, more than anybody in the house. But like, I didn't see like to put in perspective, like it's not just like Disney. It's like I wasn't allowed to kind of watch not Disney animation because like a strict rule on it. My parents just didn't know what it was or care about it. Like I could watch Nickelodeon and stuff, but I didn't see a Ghibli film until I got to college. Like that just stuff wasn't in the house. That was basically the only cultural reference point I had for about until I got to high school, and then I was too attached to Disney to care to look elsewhere. So it was just that's what it was. And my neighbor had a PS2, and he brought over some games. I was in kindergarten, so this would have been the year Kingdom Hearts came out, 01, or thereabouts. And he came over, and I thought all the goofy, and I was like, all right, well, we're playing that game. And I haven't put it down since kindergarten. I've played I played all of the games. I've trekked through the mobile games reluctantly. That's where you get the deep lores, the mobile games, which is it's good, but a pay to play mobile game is not my preferred. I have to watch. I get to a point where I'm watching most of the cutscenes on YouTube because I'm like, I'm not paying you $15 a week to play this game. But I've played all of it. I think the only ones I haven't played closest to release were some of the were probably Birth by Sleep because I had to borrow a friend's PSP, and then Dream Drop Distance was the same thing. I had to borrow a friend's 3DS. But it was it's just always been looming. It's been my favorite game series. Last of Us is inching there. It's getting close. God of War Ragnarok. Ask me next week where.
Oh my god! I can't believe we're so close. We're so close on Ragnarok. I can't believe it. Yeah. Which if you had told me before 2018, before that God of War game came out, that I would be this excited about a God of War sequel and like this is one of my favorite franchises, I would have slapped you in the face because I hated those original God of War games so much.
I didn't play them until I played 2018. It wasn't even on my radar. I mean, because I was like elementary school when those games were coming out. So
I want you to know that like I'm turning to dust as you talk because you've made me feel so old. I by saying that Kingdom Hearts came out when you were in kindergarten is like because I was in 10th or 11th grade. When Kingdom Hearts came out, I guess I was probably in 11th grade. Because Kingdom Hearts 2 came out the year after I graduated.
I had an effect on people. There's a coworker I had as my last job, and he was also into Kingdom Hearts and Star Wars, and we'd be talking, and it was like, yeah, Revenge of the Sith came out when I was in 3rd grade, and he's like, I need you to stop talking.
Bingo. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. Like when you say something like that, I'm like, so then you're like 12 now. And it's like, no. It's been over 2 decades since Kingdom Hearts came out, which is I don't want to put the world in that context. I don't want my life to be in that context.
Which is for like me, it's just basically because I'm 26. I have a very limited perception of existence pre-Kingdom Hearts. It almost doesn't exist. It's just been constant the whole way through. I've been writing with that game series.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
It's my ride or die. I'll defend it to anybody. Anybody tells me it's ridiculous, I'll be like, yeah, sure.
it's
so is everything
yeah,
else.
it is one of those things where it's like is Kingdom Hearts good? And I'm like, I can't answer that question for you. Like that is Kingdom Hearts good is a question that every person has to answer for themselves.
Yeah,
Because like mileage is gonna vary, man. Is the
definitely.
gameplay good? In the mainline games, absolutely. Gameplay is phenomenal, and I think it
One,
gets
two, and
better with
three.
each one. Yeah,
1, 2, and 3. It's so good. You get
it's so
it's
good.
back to the speedrunners if you wanted an explanation why 2 is better than 3. But I think
Yeah,
3 is
yeah,
also, especially with the DLC,
yeah.
on par with 2. Those games have some of the tightest gameplay you're gonna see. Like it's
Oh man.
fast. It is. You need to get with those games. I've done.
And the great thing about Kingdom Hearts is like if you want to hit X to win, you can do that.
You can.
You can play the game that way. But if you want to get deep into the systems and look really cool while you're playing it,
Mm-hmm.
like Kingdom Hearts 3 is the fastest path to feeling like you are that awesome. Even though it's like,
Yeah.
no, the game is doing all of the work and you've hit 3 buttons. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no. But and then it's like, is the story good? It's like, which one, like which story are you talking about? Because like as we've discussed, like there are so many layers to it.
Yeah.
um
I think in almost, and not to keep bringing it back to Star Wars, I think it's in the Kingdom Hearts, the Star Wars category. It's like there's a Kingdom Hearts game for everybody. Like
I
Game
think
Drop
so, yeah.
Distance, I don't like, but I know all my friends who love Pokemon love that
Yeah,
one. I
yeah,
can't stand
because
it.
they're catching little dream monsters.
You get your
uh
monsters, you got to train them up, you get to go play with them, and I'm like, I hate this. I hate that all my
merge them
abilities
together and
are
stuff.
like
Yeah, yeah.
tied to these guys, and everyone's like, no, I love them, they're cute, and I love fighting them. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no. um Yeah, I mean, like, so yeah, I was a teenager when it came out. I didn't have a PlayStation 2, so it was this thing like where I would see it back in the day. I This is the third podcast 3 days in a row where I have had to explain myself to younger people. It's like there was a point in time where you would go to a store, which was like a physical place. I don't know if we even really have stores anymore. You go to a physical place in order to purchase things because you couldn't just get a little helicopter to drop it on your doorstep like you can today. Um, so you had to go to a physical store, and video games were very expensive. They are still very expensive, but for some reason we're okay with just paying $70 or $80 per entertainment item
Yeah,
nowadays.
someone needs to relax with the raising the prices
Yeah,
$10
oh
every
my god.
generation.
Back then, you would go to this one place and then they would have all of the games that had come out pretty much. And you would say, I would like that one for a week. And they would say, this is how much money that costs. And it was a fraction of the cost of the actual game. So you
Blockbuster.
could, yeah, well, I wasn't at Blockbuster for this particular one. I was at
Mm-hmm.
a little mom and pop shop called Microplay in Penticton. And my friend was working there at the time, and I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, what's this game with Donald and Goofy on the cover and this like Final Fantasy looking guy? And he's like, so my best friend, this is my best friend in the whole wide world, the best man at my wedding, Bill, is like, well, that's Kingdom Hearts. It's an RPG where you go through different Disney movies like Alice in Wonderland. I'm like, stop right there. I have zero interest in this because I'm like 16, right? So I'm way too cool for this. I'm like 16 or 17 at this
Yeah.
point. So when I first encountered Kingdom Hearts, I'm like, no, not for me. And then it wouldn't be until a couple years later, when I was in film school, and my friend Carl, who was one of the groomsmen at my wedding, was living in my parents' basement. I was living in my parents' house going to school, and he needed a place to live, and he moved into my basement. I rented it from my parents. So one of my best friends was living in my house with me, and we were hanging out all the time, and he was like, you should check out, like, you like all of this stuff, you should check out Kingdom Hearts. And so I started playing it on his PlayStation 2, and got most of the way through it. I got all the way to the fight with Riku, and I couldn't beat him because I just couldn't figure out the parry system at the time. It was just,
Yeah.
I just couldn't grasp it.
Yeah.
And so I dropped it at that point, but then Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, so I watched a video online, not on YouTube, because YouTube didn't exist yet, you guys. It didn't exist. I think I was in an MSN group, which were like chat boards on msn.com, and there was like these MSN groups. I was in a group that was a role-playing group, like tabletop role-playing, but without any mechanics, where we would just go into these chat boards and message boards, and you would just say what your characters were doing, and somebody posted videos of what happened in Kingdom Hearts at the end of Kingdom Hearts, and so I downloaded and watched those QuickTime videos on my computer. I played Leon on the RP board, by the way. That was my character, because you didn't like create your own character. You grabbed a character from the world or whatever, and that's who I was, because he was Squall is my favorite Final Fantasy character. 8's my favorite Final Fantasy game. Which, I mean, your favorite Final Fantasy game is often, this almost always holds true. It's the first one you played. And 8 was the first one that I played, followed by 6. So I love both of those more than anything in the Final Fantasy history. But Leon also voiced in the first one by David Boreanaz, Angel from Buffy, and I was big into Angel and Buffy at the time. So it was like, oh my God, worlds colliding. So I played Leon on that RP board, and yeah, so I caught up with the end of the story that way, and then Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, and I played that like cover to cover, to mix metaphors, to use an analogy. I played the crap out of that one. And then I eventually went back and played all the way through 1 and beat 1 years later, but with one of the remasters. And I've played a bunch of the other ones, but not all of them. And I've only ever finished the mainline games.
That's fair.
1, 2, and 3. Those are the only ones that I've ever like complete. And Chain of Memories, because there was a very big gap between Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, and there wasn't really anything else to do while you waited for Kingdom Hearts 2, and Chain of Memories was on the Game Boy Advance. And card battle game, not my active card battle, I think is what the system's called. Not my favorite.
It's not. I can't. I think the if you do play that game, try and get your hands on the GBA version. It is better than the PlayStation remaster, but it's especially if you come right off of 1. It's, besides gameplay aside, it's you're going through Sora's memories, which is you're about to go rehash all of the Disney Worlds you just did. It's repetitive. All the stuff between that, which is the one problem Disney Kingdom Hearts is starting to run into, is you go in, you do the Disney World, you get out, and then they're like, okay, and here's the story, and you're like, I need them to start blending it a little bit more.
For sure.
Again, like in the first and second games were really good at that.
Yeah, well, like Space Paranoids, right? Because Space Paranoids is this great instance of like, you need to go into Ansem's computer in order to recover information, and when you go into his computer, the inside of his computer is Tron, right?
Yeah.
And there's it's not actually Tron. You're not in the Tron world. You are inside Ansem's computer, where Ansem knows about Tron and copied Tron from the Tron world and made a duplicate of him in his own computer to protect his own computer, because that's the purpose of Tron.
The Tron program from Encom.
He duped it and installed it on his own computer without a license, which is Kevin Flynn would absolutely support that. So Nomura gets it. He gets it so hard. Oh, we don't have time. We can't get into Space Paranoids again. We're at an hour and a half, man. No, so like, and so like I've gotten deep into Kingdom Hearts and read the manga and all that sort of stuff, in order to re-experience the story without actually having to play through the game over and over. And also the manga for the first one is so good. It's so good. The art is just immaculate. I love it so much.
I think they just wrapped up the manga for the third game in that.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, man. And it was hard to come by back then. Like finding popular manga was difficult. Finding something that was like niche at the time, which would be like Kingdom Hearts manga. And I live in Vancouver, and like we have a huge Asian community across this city, and finding that manga back in like, this would have been like 2004, 2005 was
Yeah.
difficult. It was difficult to track those down, but I did it.
Good.
Yeah. Awesome. You know what? I think that's where we got to wrap it up. We got to bring it all home. I listen. This is the thing about a perfect 10. When we talk about a perfect 10, is it actually literally perfect in the sense of like, is every single aspect of it exactly, to the highest quality standard imaginable? That's not what a perfect 10 is, right? Like, a perfect 10 is subjective, but universal at the same time. This is what makes it so difficult for me to define it, and it is a personal thing for everybody, because it is going to be, where you come at it from. So Kingdom Hearts, I don't know if it's going to be a perfect 10 for everybody, in the way that I can say that like Ghostbusters is pretty universally a perfect 10, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But is Kingdom Hearts a perfect 10? Without a doubt, it's a perfect 10, because for what it aims to be, for what it tries to accomplish, nothing does it better. Nothing does it better. Final Fantasy is not as good. A Disney movie is not as good. Somehow putting the two of them together, the sum is greater than its parts. Right?
They complement each other. You wouldn't guess it beautifully. They work.
Yeah.
They work together on a really amazing level.
Yeah. It's like putting Sour Patch Kids into your popcorn at the movie theater. You're like, why would I do that? This seems like the sort of chaotic thing that only an evil mastermind would do. And then you have a handful of that, and you're like, this is wonderful. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to eat popcorn or Sour Patch Kids the same again. Right?
Exactly. It's not. There was not to drag this out a little bit. There was Onion or like hard drive article few months ago that was just like, breaking, all Kingdom Hearts bullshit is not Disney, and that's from Final Fantasy. And I'm like, yeah, no, like all the sequels and spin-offs and all the weird lore world building, I'm like, that's Nomura pulling from 7. And then all of the hope and optimism that you're just like wrenching out of the Disney movies with the happy endings. And
no. Yeah, no, in that analogy, it's like, the Disney movies are oranges, right? And the Final Fantasy stuff is the juicer. So it's just like,
exactly.
You just got Nomura taking these oranges, slicing them in half, and ramming them into Final Fantasy, and just getting the juice out of that. Just because really, like, juicing an orange is a very violent act. And that's exactly what Kingdom Hearts is. I think I've just summed up Kingdom Hearts better than any human being has ever managed to do.
That is an absolute perfect analogy.
On that note, David, thank you so much for having this ridiculous hour-and-a-half conversation about Kingdom Hearts with me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it was a joy. We'd have to do it again sometime.
Totally. 100%. David, if people want to follow you and your insane musings on Kingdom Hearts, where are they going to find you?
I'm just about pretty much only on Twitter. At mindful_Jedi. That's where you're going to find me. I'll talk about Star Wars. Every time there's Kingdom Hearts news, I'll spiral, and you'll get a whole bunch of that. And then I also talk about art a lot. I post most of my art there, so that's where you'd see any of that.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody go follow David on Twitter, mindful_Jedi. He is a very good follow. That is endorsed, stamped approval. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, especially our Patreon producer, Brian Murawski. Just a reminder, I'll have said it at the beginning in my intro, but I'm going to say it again here. I love doing this podcast. I can't justify doing it every other week until we hit that 250 a month threshold. So go to patreon.com/ThunderQuack and kick in. And listen, if everybody listening it did $1, we'd get there. We get there in no time. It's not, we don't have that far to go. And then I'll start doing these every other week. But I got to be able to justify that to Crystal. Like, she will not allow me to take as much time as I do on these. I scheduling and coordinating and all that sort of thing. If there's not, if this is the thing, I don't even take that money. Like, the money doesn't even come to me, but I know I'll be able to justify it to her if I'm like, look, we're raking in 250 American a month on this. Which just pays for the podcast itself. But in any case, that's the goal that I've set for us as a community to hit. And so I hope that we can, so that I can have more ridiculous conversations like this, and we can, like, this is the thing, David, is that, like, I have a line, like, there's a bunch of people who want to come do episodes of Perfect 10. I've never experienced this before in my podcasting career. Usually I'm like, hey, would you please come on my podcast? But this one, like, when you say, hey, does anybody want to come on a podcast and talk about a thing that they love so much, and all of my friends who have podcasts are just, terminally online like me, they're like, yeah, absolutely. So I got like 6 or 7 more people lined up that want to come do Perfect 10. I got like my own dream list of people that I want to bring on the podcast. And we got to get through a few more of them before we start circling back around to people who've already been on the show. So if we're doing podcasts every other week, we'll do that even faster. And then I don't know, man, what would be the next thing that you would want to do, David? Just tease the audience. What's the next Perfect 10 you'd want to talk about?
Oh, I think I might have to stick with video games and either go Last of Us or God of War. And
heck yeah, man. Like, I'm down for both of those. So let's put them on the list and circle back around to them for sure at some point. But that's it for this one. Talking about Kingdom Hearts. Like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been so much fun. And I hope everybody listening enjoyed it. Whether you are a Kingdom Hearts fan or not, hopefully we converted some people. Not that Kingdom Hearts is hurting. Like, I don't think that they're too worried about it, but like, no. Just, like,
they keep letting Nomura make endless amounts of them. I think they're right. But if you want to join in, and it's good fun and it feels good.
Yeah.
Even the sad ones.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, David, for being on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. ThunderQuack Perfect 10 is hosted by me, Michael Cohen. Follow us on Twitter at ThunderQuackPod, on Instagram at ThunderQuackPodcast, on Facebook at ThunderQuack, and join us on Discord at ThunderQuack.com/Discord. Support the podcast by heading to Patreon.com/ThunderQuack to get early access, bonus episodes, and the ThunderQuack Perfect 10 Pop Quiz. ThunderQuack Perfect 10 is part of the ThunderQuack Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.